slide's getting ready, I'll just reiterate thanks to the Museum Association of the Caribbean for inviting us and having us here. It's a wonderful opportunity to network with you and share our stories. I'm very happy to be here. So I'll be focusing on our collections, how we got there from 0 to 37,000, and talk to you a little bit about some of our approaches and experiences. Even though that they're unique to our museum, I hope that they'll be useful information for you as well. So when I came onto the museum in 2006, it was for the purpose of organizing how we collect. So I helped to develop a plan that meets the museum's needs. Like other people in my position, I leaned and I had the opportunity to there are 19 museums at the Smithsonian, ours is the 19th. So I had a lot of colleagues around me who knew what they were doing, they understood the systems that were unique to Smithsonian, and we leaned on them a lot. When we first got here, we didn't have storage, we only had office space, and we just had to figure it out. And so we did get a lot of help from our friends who were very nearby and supportive of us. I also kind of just looked at, how do we have to maintain the standards and maintain them, particularly to Smithsonian professional standards. The Association of American Museums stresses the need for a plan that, at the most basic level, says that you have thought about what you're doing in terms of what collections you'll be bringing into the museum. And we can't take for granted that everyone just knows what collections you have, what collections you will accept, based on the museum's mission statement, which we had formed very, very quickly and presented very early on. So the plan needs to demonstrate the serious thinking, some forecasting, and guidelines for everyone to move forward in a way that makes sense, that will be particular to our needs. And so the most important thing in developing that plan is about knowing that you're establishing the realistic standards and best practices that are unique to you and addresses those within those parameters. So I'll talk again about the circumstances unique to the African American Museum History and Culture. I refer to this statement of James Baldwin frequently because it reminds me that much has been said and written about the African American history, and still it is not enough. It's our belief at the museum that the African American experience is the quintessential American experience, and the best way to explore the challenges of American democracy and its meaning for all Americans. Therefore, it is our job at the museum to present history and stories of African Americans in a way that all visitors can relate to and begin to understand it. So that was the driving philosophy set for us by the director, and as well as our scholarly advisory committee, and it shapes everything we do. So our mission and scope of collecting in the most general sense, we needed to collect significant, meaningful, and profound artifacts related to the African American experience. While this statement is broad and encompassing, it has to be that because of the massive undertaking that we were charged with. As a curator, I needed flexibility to change my mind, to take advantages of new opportunities that come our way, the unexpected offer, the object that shows up at auction. And while the scope is gargantuan, we have some parameters in our plans that made it more manageable. First, some of the challenges that we had, aside from it being an overwhelming task, was that we were faced not only with raising funds in a timely manner, but we had to cultivate new audiences. Even though there had been collecting going on across the country for many years, it did take some convincing for some African American communities to trust the Smithsonian. There was a certain level of distrust from this community, from a mammoth, historically all-white institution, stepping up to now take ownership of the African American story. So we were dealing with, not for everybody, some people were very ready to partner and give to the museum, but for some people they were dealing with a legacy of mistrust and not necessarily acquiescing to an authority as the Smithsonian. So also in the process to approve the legislation for the museum, there were concerns voiced about whether there was actually enough stuff to fill the museum of the stature and magnitude. So faced with that challenge, it was essential to make sure we would open the museum with a significant number of artifacts that the museum owned. So how did we do that? The reality was that we were too young to be able to identify the definitive plans for collecting back in 2006 and 2007. Our focus was strategizing for the building. So we came around to having a plan for collections once we had developed a plan for the exhibitions. And that was driven by the needs for the planning of the building. So essentially, the metaphor that we were building the ship that has already sailed came up quite frequently. We were constantly doing. We were making exhibitions while we were collecting, while we were building the museum. We were doing all that at the same time. The public exhibition galleries were developed through an intense year-long process, almost 2 years, in which the museum's curatorial and public programs team collaborated with the Freelon Bond Group, the architectural design team that was hired to create a programming document that was then used as common reference points for the architects who were competing to be selected to design the building. The development of the plan involved numerous consultations with various groups, from our Scholarly Advisory Committee, which for many years was chaired by John Hope Franklin. We also had several town hall style meetings with various focus groups. We had meetings with scholars across the country that included Brown University, Yale, Columbia, as well as Howard University, and various stakeholders. So at these various meetings, on a most general sense, we asked, what do you expect to see in the museum? Which stories should be told? How can the museum address difficult subjects? And some of the key answers that emerged for us were that the African American experience must be presented in a global context. The museum should not shy away from telling the truth, and it needs to tell untold or little-known stories. As well, the museum needs to demonstrate through real-life stories how African Americans made their way out of no way. And that's actually the name of one of the exhibitions we developed, but it's a theme and a through line that runs throughout the exhibitions. This graphic shows the concept of how the galleries are organized, that we saw some. So there's history, community, and culture were the essential thematic organization of the exhibitions. And so with all the exhibition teams that then were within each of these groupings of history, community, and culture were then focused on collecting specifically for those stories. And this is an inside view of the building of the escalator that moves from the main floor up to the second floor. Aside from addressing the stories presented in the exhibitions, some other factors were shaping our thinking. We had to collect iconic objects of African American history and also large objects. The Smithsonian is very much about, that's our specialty. It has to be the real authentic thing, the stuff. And a lot of them have to be big. It's kind of the way we go. And so a couple of the big things that we targeted were a rail car. We initially had been looking for a Pullman sleeping quarter car, but we ended up coming across a Jim Crow rail car, which was totally refurbished and installed in the museum and actually put in the museum before the walls went up. We also managed to find a Tuskegee airplane. We initially started out looking for a fighter plane, but we actually came across someone who had a biplane that was used at Tuskegee Institute to train these airmen, and that also came to the museum early on. We also were collecting around images of pivotal moments in American history. Photography is a major part of the collection, so when you hear that we have 37,000 objects, doesn't mean we have 37,000 things as big as an airplane or a train, because that would be quite expansion, and that's what Air and Space does. They have the big things. But a lot of them are flat materials, paper, archives is a part of what we collect, and photography is also an important part of what we do. We also were collecting contemporary issues. We collected in 2008 around the Obama campaign. So we could got this banner from Missouri that was handmade for the campaign, and those ended up being incorporated in some of the exhibitions. We also, more contemporary things we were collecting are around Black Lives Matter. We started collecting some art pieces as well as actual ephemera from public protests. So we make that contemporary collecting an important part of what we do. We're also collecting artifacts of everyday life. We're not only collecting the famous and highest achievers. We're talking about the lived experience of African Americans, and that crosses all spectrums of American life. We had to collect things that would be identified as treasures, the material cultures from iconic figures in history, such as Harriet Tubman, or something like a trumpet that was used by Louis Armstrong. As Joanne mentioned earlier, most people don't know that we're collecting art, but in addition to paintings, we are collecting works on paper, sculpture, mixed media, and that's also included in the Visual Arts Gallery as another changing gallery. So we have a major changing gallery for changing exhibitions, and the Visual Arts Gallery will also have a changing gallery in addition to the permanent display that it has. I wanted to mention that before we even started planning our planning focus, we received many offers of collections, and we accepted many, but not all of them, of course. Our very first donations came before I was hired, and it was brought directly to our museum director. So that is a boat seat. And this one is carved with the image of the Anansi, the spider, the trickster character found in folk tales in the African diaspora. It was used by Deborah Azarena, an Afro-Ecuadorian woman, as she passed on these stories to her grandson, Juan Garcia Salazar, who himself is a storyteller. And knowing that stories are at the root of culture, this offer was promptly accepted, and it was fitting that a personal treasure representing storytelling is the museum's first object. That was the first thing my director told me to do something like. It was sitting on his bookshelf. So I'll talk a little bit quickly about some of the things that we had to work out in terms of museum storage. As I mentioned earlier, we were fortunate to work with our sister institution to help us get on our feet. They temporarily stored materials for us. They provided guidance and recommendations. We had to early on develop some protocols, being in that unusual situation of starting with no collection. Collecting is, the major activity of what was happening for us. The museum board delegated its authority of collecting to the director very early on, who in turn delegated authority to internal collections committee. We established a system by which we gather basic information about collections. We notify the appropriate curators across the spectrum of the exhibits and the areas of expertise. There's a physical review, which is an essential step in the process, and we make formal presentations to the committee, whereby we're justifying the significance of the collection item and how it is planned, or how we plan to use it. The collection information form that we developed is the first step, and it's a very important aspect in formalizing the process to gather essential information. And I'll talk a little bit more about how we were working with a lot of new audiences who weren't familiar with working with museums, so it was very important to have those clear directions for people. To mention as well that we needed to build a staff who had museum experience and training, particularly in collection handling. And we were very fortunate to have the funding to build that staff, although it's only in the last 3 years or so that we have a much larger staff than when I started, when we were a staff of 2 people in the curatorial department. But at least now in our Office of Collections Management, there are about 20 people, a lot of them contractors, but also permanent staff. We also have an entire team of catalogers who are dedicated to that and developing the database and doing the research for the collection. And so, since that was only happening in the last 3 years, we are dealing with a backlog and handling that, where we were prioritizing the cataloging of materials that were going on display. And the reason why the museum, the reason why the museum, when we opened, was able to find access to a database that you can search on the museum collection on the website. Community engagement has been, from the beginning, an important way that we can facilitate our collecting. We're educating audiences on the museum process. And one way we did that was with the Treasures program. It was to save our African American treasures. And this started as a strategy early on to introduce the museum to people outside of Washington, D.C. Often referred to as an antiques roadshow in its format, but it was primarily an education program. We had to kind of deal with that issue. People would bring artifacts and they want to know what it was worth, and we had to tell them, we're not going to tell you what it's worth, because that's not what we do. We'll talk to you about the historical significance, and we'll talk to you about conservation, and we got a lot of support from conservators, and that was probably one of the most interesting aspects of it, was that people got to learn about the materials, how to care for it. We provided people with boxes that they could take home, as well as a handbook on how to take care of your artifacts at home. So it was a strategy to engage with people, because again, you know, as you saw before we were building, we were just a grassy knoll at the monument. And so it was part of creating an identity for the museum, and that people could see that we were useful to them beyond just being able to visit the museum. And I think it was a major impact on how the museum membership grew very quickly. And when we opened the museum, I think we had 100,000 members. Yeah, I think we had 100,000 by the time the museum opened. And the year before we opened, we were already around 85,000 members, so it was quite good. In terms of donor relations and telling personal human stories, I think at the Smithsonian we were that's one of the better pictures, so I think that. We developed special relationships with our donors and collaborators that took a lot of time and effort on everyone's part. We needed the donors to trust us, and we have to live up to that. The faith that they put in us to tell their stories, to respect their points of view. That was a major part in terms of developing our exhibitions. Sometimes we had preconceptions about the stories that we would be telling, but sometimes people would present us with things in ways that, you know, we thought, wow, that can work. And so people had a very direct impact on what we could tell in the museum. And I think that's a unique strength of what we are at the Smithsonian, and it's quite unusual for a Smithsonian museum to do that. So that's everything.